Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Bayonetta 2 walkthrough. It's time for the penultimate chapter of the game. Chapter 15. Truth. Oh, this is so exciting. Obviously, we need to head to the gates of hell first.
No shoes, no shirt, no service. Hair doesn't count. Just kidding. What'll it be?
You dirty pervert, Rodan. Bloody hell. Anyways, considering how many blooming halos we've got, we are now kind of basically nearly maxed out on both health and magic. All that's left is one witch heart, and also one moon pearl. Now, the earrings of ruin there, which unlock after you beat chapter 14, are great. Because basically what it does is it means that instead of going into Umbran Climax, you summon the Umbran armor, which, as you have seen, is an absolute combo genius. So, it's a very incredibly helpful thing to be able to get. Although obviously it can be seen as a bit cheap, but either way. And so, we get thrown straight into fighting. There is pretty much just straight action for the next 10 minutes, really. It's just glorious. And in this fight we get to go against kind of so many different types of angels. It's wonderful. Slightly frustrating thing is that it's all just angels we fought in the first game. So we've got the applauds, we'll get the beloveds, we'll get the graces and glories and the fairness and the fearlesses. So, in a way, it's nothing new, but the fact that they throw a ridiculous amount at you for this entire verse, really. Although they definitely could be throwing more at us, considering how late in the game this is. Although, there's the wonderful black that is grace and glory. I still don't like these enemies, even now. It's like, they are way easier here than they were in Bayonetta 1. And I think that's because the weapons in Bayonetta 2 are just that much more useful. It may also be that they have kind of gimped their overall difficulty a bit. I don't know why they would, but I've never had any trouble with grace and glory in this game, whereas first game, sometimes they were just hell. If anything, I've had more trouble with blooming fairless and fearlesses. And it's mostly just because I failed to read them properly. But something that I want to bring up now is that the fact that this is the penultimate chapter in the game, because it ties in to my overall problems with the pacing of Bayonetta 2. Because as amazing as this chapter is, and for everything that it does with the plot, what Bayonetta 2 needed was another chapter just to kind of act as final level territory. Because in Bayonetta 1 you had the Ithavoll Tower, and you had that really long chapter climbing it, facing off against all of the cardinal virtues, well, the weaker versions of the cardinal virtues. And while it was perhaps a bit too long and sometimes a bit too cheap, it felt like this is the end of the game. It kind of had that air about it. This doesn't quite. So it ends up being a bit. So it is a case of I just wish that there was more as this game. Which I mean is not a horrible thing to wish. But I do think that the Bayonetta 2 suffers because it just doesn't, you know, have that level of satisfying length. It leaves you wanting a bit too much more, basically. And now we have to face off against Temperantia with the wonderful In Foregoing Pleasures. Now, I have to say, I really don't like fighting Temperantia in this game. There's something about the way this fight works that I just know. It's like in the original game, it was great. I think because like you blocked that punch and you were doing a hell of a lot more to kill him. Whereas here, you're just kind of a bit, yeah. Now, as we are bringing up the rear on defeating Temperantia, I feel I should probably talk about the voice actors and so on for all of the angels, because they do have them. And for the most part, it's all kind of... it's normal voice actors in the game, so Temperantia is voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, speaking Enochian and kind of all voice modulated and stuff. Sapientia is Dave Fenoy. Eostisha is Grant Albrecht. 42 is apparently George Ball, who is Kronos in God of War 3, which is a bit... I have no idea why he's different. Then Valiance is Fred Tatashaw, and Glamour is Tara Platt. But it's mostly kind of all characters, people who are already in the cast, which is cool. And now we get the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful return of One of a Kind. In a verse that is basically very ridiculously reminiscent, and it's meant to be, of the opening of Bayonetta 1. And just... oh, I love it. I mean, doing this, which it's also sort of part of what was in the Remembrance of Time bit that we had at the beginning. But I think this entire bit just proves that One of a Kind is just a better song than The Legend of Aesir. Because, I don't know, there's just something about the way that it flows into each bit. It's just a much more satisfying song to fight to. But we've gone and lost Rosa somewhere, and hello.
Kind of miss a bit there, little one. Here to guide you as always. Someone sent you back 500 years, it seems. I see you've already discovered the truth. They don't call you the left eye for naught, do they? Who are you? never mind that. Something more important to talk about, my dear. The witch and the sage are still alive. Trifling creatures, both of them. I must be rid of them as soon as possible. I want what they have. I want back what is mine. The eyes of the world. What? The other me escaped to the future, and I can't let him have them. Which is why I must see you eliminated, my dear.
And so we begin our fight against Lopter, the other half of Loki. Which is kind of, it's kind of been there and not, and it's something that will get explained a lot more. But I have to say, I do like this fight. I mean, in general, I love, like, the Prophet-Lopter fight, because it is just a lot of fun. And it is much more satisfying to do and to fight than the Doom and Sage fights, I feel. Just because they are a lot easier to read. Also, a bit more ridiculous, even if they don't quite have the same multi-part feel to them. But also, weirdly enough, I find this fight a hell of a lot easier than I find the Prophet fight. I don't know what it is. I think it's because it's kind of land battle, so you're much more in control of what's happening. But yeah, there's something about this fight that's just easier. And I feel that whilst this is happening, I just need to say, to the moon! If you don't get the reference, it's basically in the original Bayonetta, whilst you're fighting Boulder, he throws a building, well, a skyscraper at you, and it's an amazing fight. And basically, Bayonetta headbutts the skyscraper back towards Boulder, and at that moment, she kind of says, "To the moon!" And it's wonderful. And that kind of headbutt has been repeated numerous times throughout Hideki Kamiya's stuff since then. Well, here with Madama Butterfly doing it. But it also appears in the Wonderful 101, in what is one of my favourite moments ever in that game. So it's just like, yes! Actually, there is just something about fighting on falling bits of debris that's just ridiculously epic, I have to say. Although, once again, the whole gloating in our victory is lost.
If you'll excuse me, my dear.
It's just like, I got a platinum on that, and you just screwed me over, you dick.
If I got it right, then this gate should lead to... Kid! Hey, pull yourself together. What happened?
Luca, was it? You know the way to Fimbulventr, right? Please, take me there. I remember. I remember everything. I have to hurry.
Are you nuts, kid? We need to get you patched up.
There's no time. Please take me to Fimbulventr, or the world will end. He and I, we are good and evil. Evil cannot be all that is left.
What?
Keep us safe with this. It's my trump card. Please. Just take me there.
Girls passing out in front of me I'm used to. But this? This is unbelievable. Well, I guess it beats addicting toddlers to lollipops.
Oh, that made me happy. just a nice little sarcastic reference back to the fact that Luca gave Cereza a lollipop in the original Bayonetta, and that led to Bayonetta's lollipop addiction. But here we are, back at the Crescent Valley, with music being Crescent Valley second climax version. And we've got our penultimate Umbran Crow, so, like, everything is nearly very wrapped up. We're even going to be getting our final Umbran resting place in this part, and then all that's left is to complete the witch hunt, which is either going to happen in this part or very shortly. The Moon Pearl, and just got one more Umbran Tears of Blood, and that's it. This game is just it's just that little bit too short for me, if I'm honest. Like, the Wonderful 101 was perhaps a little bit too long. And I'd say the original Bayonetta was about right in terms of the length that this type of game needs to be. Because it provides that sort of lengthy challenge, but doesn't outstay its welcome. But also doesn't leave you feeling a little bit cheated. I mean, having said that, by the time I will have finished recording this walkthrough, I will probably have spent an equal amount of time to what I spent recording my original Bayonetta walkthrough. 'Cause, yeah, I spent a while, and I'm spending a while on this one because it's like, there's a lot of content, and the amount of times I'm having to play through the story, it's just like, oh my god. But either way, our final verse, well, final standard verse for this chapter is against Grace and Glory in the same place that we fought them in the first game. Thankfully, sort of, they aren't quite that annoying as they were then. But they were like, when you first got introduced to them in the kind of start of chapter 5, they were brand new and you were just like, oh my good god, these guys are fast and powerful and this is terrifying. Whereas by the time you get to them in this game, it's just like, oh, that's nice. They're a little bit mean, but I've had worse. I mean, like, the allegiances are far worse. But either way, the end of the chapter is just through that gate. But we don't want to be doing that just yet. We want to head all the way over here, enter an optional verse, which is once again another repeat of a verse in Bayonetta 1. And I think I may have a bit of a disaster run with this verse. Don't know what it is, it's just, I'm not a fan of Fairness and Fearless much anymore, because of the way they've treated me in this game. They're just a little bit too quick for us. But I do like that we get kind of the return of Riders of the Light, the song, because it's another of my kind of favourite songs from the original game. And to be perfectly honest, that is something else. Like, the soundtrack of Bayonetta 2 is excellent, and, like, I mean, Moon River, Tomorrow Is Mine, and so on, are just out of this world. But in the grand scheme of things, I'd say that Bayonetta 1's soundtrack is much more memorable. Now, very important thing, this is by far the most difficult Umbran resting place in the entire game. because you've got to jump up onto that arch. It's the only way to get anything else in this, and then you are it's a very, very, very tight run to get all the pieces. I'm absolutely in shock that I managed to do that my first time there, because I had so much trouble when I was first trying to get it when I was playing the game. So to get it the first time there, it was just like, oh, this is wonderful. But it's just getting onto that arch. If you can get onto the arch, then you should be away. You just got to make sure that you kind of know where you're going and crow within your way there. You'll be fine. But having gotten that, it's time for our penultimate Muspelheim of the game, which is incredibly challenging. I am not a fan in the slightest, because it's a don't touch the ground, and it begins fine. Making use of Alruna here because it is an incredibly powerful thing, but it's also very, very useful for staying in the air. But the reason that this is so difficult is because you have to fight off against this beloved. And obviously, if you're fighting against something that's this big, it is undoubtedly going to break the platform eventually. So I had such trouble with this fight, because, I mean, it's alright if you know how to use Afterburner Kick properly, because rising up means that you get to stay in the air and you can continue combos and so on and so forth. But I kept screwing it up and landing on the ground. I had to do that so many times. And in fact, on my first run through of the game, that was one of the 2 Muspelheims that I actively didn't complete. Like, there were the ones that I just missed and couldn't find, but this one was one of the ones where I was just like, no, ain't nobody got time for that, at all. Having done it, I feel very accomplished, but that one is one of the most difficult that you're going to face. Seriously. It's so hard. But with that, it's time to go in and end the chapter.
Rosa! Rosa!
You saw the emblem on his forehead. He's the one you're really after.
What?
We need to get back to my town. We can open a portal from here.
And so, as we kind of ignore the dying / dead Rosa, it's time to use time travel. I'm not quite sure how this works. It's a beautiful cutscene and it's heartbreaking, but I have no idea how this works technically.
Portal is opening. We need to get back to my time. Quickly! There's no time!
Please take care of Cereza. Our dear sweet child will awaken to her potential. She will awaken to the eyes of the world.
Rosa!
Baldur!
And with that, chapter 15 is complete. It's time to begin chapter 16 and finish this game. Let's do it!